This is showing Adelaide Central Business District here, and the rower lines, steel rower lines, are shown in red. This is the Adelaide Parklands interstate passenger trains with standard gauge. The passenger trains in Adelaide CBD are broad gauge. This red line here is the streetcar system, which evolved out of private rower lines. Originally there was a private rower line from, this is South Terrace and this is North Terrace. From South Terrace to Glenelg was a private rower line, and from North Terrace there was another private rower line which ran here to Glenelg. And these private rower lines were nationalised near the end of the 19th century, and in 1929 this rower line was converted from a single track of steam line to a double track of electric trams. The tramway system has been extended from the centre of the city, which was the terminal for the trams at one time, and now the tram's been returned and they run along North Terrace to the entertainment centre, and another extension goes to the eastern suburbs. One of the issues is trying to link up our system so that trains can run through the city to reach the busy areas of redevelopments which is occurring, and the congestion on the roads means the only solution is to take either buses or trains or both in tunnels under the street of the CBD and some of the surrounding suburbs. This is the Hills line, this is Seaford line, this is the Goodwood Junction. We have an existing right of way, and this is the Adelaide Terminal Railway Station. The problem with the Adelaide Terminal Railway Station is that the area of switching involved here means there's a huge congestion with trains. We cannot actually expand the number of trains because of the lack of flying junctions within this, what is called the Nan junction. And it's been a hope for many years of Adelaideans that we'd actually have underground trains running beneath the CBD of Adelaide. At this point, there is a gap between some buildings, which has been a place designated that when these two buildings were being built, this is the University of Adelaide building, this is the University of South Australia, the trains would come through this gap. Rail transport is a state government responsibility, and in South Australia the Liberal Party has been in government for 12 months. This shows their infrastructure priorities on their website, and we can see that the policies of the Liberal Party are, amongst other things, an underground rail link in the CBD between the northern and southern train lines, and also the completion of the Gawler electrification. What is not specified, obviously, at the moment is the route by which this underground rail link will occur. If we look at this point here, we can see that we really simple to take this across and join onto this right of way, because what we're trying to do is get to the gap between two buildings on South Terrace, which gives you access into the CBD from the rail yards. At this point, we can get access to this road called Morford Street, and the proposal would be that the railway line from Goulburn Junction would follow the right-of-way used by the Glenelg, what's now called the Glenelg tram, go across South Park lands to Morford Street, and then along Morford Street, and hence into these complex of rail lines alongside of the Adelaide Terminal Railway Station.
Behind me is the Goodwood Flying Junction, which is on the Seaford electric train line, which is right in here underneath the Hills line. One of the ambitions of the current government is to get this north-south line built through the CBD so that trains from Seaford can travel through to Gawler without having to terminate at the current Adelaide Terminal Station. This is a journey of seeing what would be a potential route for the north-south rail link through the CBD of Adelaide. This passenger train to Belair is going over the top of the Goodwood Flying Junction. Two-car diesel electric. Hill Road at Unley at the junction with King William Road and Peacock Road, looking towards the west. At one time there were 6 railway tracks here. 4 tracks for street trams and 2 tracks for the electric tram line, which was created when the South Terrace to Glenelg railway line was converted from a single track of steam train to a double track of electric train by the South Australian government in 1929. It's suggested that this right-of-way could be used to take an underground train to Morford Street. And this is a Glenelg tram about to cross over. We can see that the problem with intersections and level crossings is that
vehicles have to wait their turn to be able to go across. And that's why it's so important that we consider underground railways. So it's suggested that the railway line would go from this point at King William Road, Peacock Road, Greenhill Road, across the parklands to Morford Street. Looking across the parklands towards the South Terrace, Morford Street intersection. South Parklands looking towards South Terrace, Morford Street intersection, point where the railway line from the north-south tunnel would go into the CBD. Morford Street, South Terrace, Sir Lewis Cohen Avenue intersection. It's a very wide road, as we can see, and easy for an underground railway line to go underneath Morford Street. At this point, Morford Street interacts with two of the minor squares in Adelaide. This is Whitmore Square, where the railway line would go underneath the square. The electric bus at Whitmore Square, looking towards Light Square, point where the railway line would go underneath the square. The northern side of Whitmore Square, looking towards Light Square, and North Terrace Terminal Railway Station in the background. Morford Street, northern end of Whitmore Square, and some of the multi-storey buildings that are now being built in Adelaide. The railway line will continue under Morford Street. Roger Street, Victoria Square, looking now towards Morford Street, and the tall apartment buildings now being built in this western side of the city. Broad Street, Morford Street intersection with the old Adelaide Girls High School building behind us, looking towards Victoria Square. Franklin Street, Morford Street intersection, looking to some more of these multi-storey buildings which are being built in this part of the city. Now reached Light Square, and this is the monument which is recorded as having the body of Colonel Light, the man who was credited with designing some of the CBD of Adelaide. This is Light Square, which would be an ideal place to build a railway station and bus station. At the southern end of Light Square on Curry Street, looking towards Grenfell Street, you can see this is a major bus route for the city. We now look towards the next section of Morford Street. We can see a bridge which is an overpass over the railway tracks of what's sometimes called the Nairn Junction, which is a complex of switches in the rails where the various trains from the suburbs come into the city at a terminal station, which this terminal station means it's very difficult for trains to move from the north to the south because they have to cross over so many junctions to get from one side of
CBD of Adelaide together within the Nairn Junction complex. Behind the rail overpass is the extension of the Morford Street Bridge, which goes over the River Torrens. At this point, there is a gap between the two buildings we can see on the left-hand side, where the railway line could go underneath South Terrace and get into the Nairn Junction, with a portal in the Nairn Junction. Just to the left of the Morford Street Bridge is the line centre, and the railway line tunnel would probably have to go underneath that building to get to the gap between the University of South Australia and the Adelaide University buildings. Morford Street, near the bridge, and we're standing on a point probably where the tunnel for the railway line will be beneath us. Coming now around past this pedestrian crossing to the intersection of Morford Street and South Terrace, with the tunnel going underneath the line centre in that direction towards the gap, which is hidden by the trees. In an earlier time, the then Minister of Transport reserved the gap between these two large buildings as the point of entry for an underground railway system into the CBD of Adelaide, and is suggested that in fact the tunnel would go underneath this section of the line centre. At this point, we're also looking towards the Adelaide Convention Centre, which is sitting on top of the Adelaide Railway Station, terminal station. So we're looking at the gap between these two large buildings, which has been designated as the way in which trains will come into the city. Looking at the gap, looking along North Terrace, and now looking back towards Morford Street Bridge, and then towards Adelaide Terminal Railway Station. Looking towards the gap where the trains will go into the switch system of the Adelaide Railway Terminal Station between the two buildings. We're now standing at the point where the tunnel would come out into switching yards, or Nairn Junction, of the Adelaide Terminal Railway Station. At the moment, there are not many trains running because they are doing an upgrade on the Seaford line, and I think we can see here a 6-car diesel train, a ghost train, which is being used to move carriages around readiness for the afternoon rush period. So this is Nairn Junction, and it's suggested that the portal for this north-south tunnel would emerge somewhere in the middle of this complex of rail junctions. Nairn Junction. You can hear the disadvantage of having sharp curves on a railway system because it caused a lot of squealing noises. In New York City and Lower Manhattan, a number of the original underground railway lines were removed because of the very sharp curves in them. And this is the one reason why a loop in the city of Adelaide probably is not desirable because of the extreme noise.
The existing railway lines and tram lines are shown in red, and the proposed pathway of the underground railway tunnel is shown in yellow. And of course, we need to consider the provision of railway stations.